And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And AI is, of course, in the news all over the place. But I think there's some issues with some of the discourse that we're hearing. And I want to talk about some of it because there's a reality here that I think a lot of people look at LLMs and AI and think generative AI, which makes sense. It tends to be what's in a lot of people's minds, or at least that's a lot of their use cases. This is what they see, right? You go into Gemini or ChatGPT or something and say, give me a picture of Mickey Mouse riding a dinosaur, and it will do the thing, right? And there are, admittedly, some moral questions about that, okay? Aside from copyright, well, not just aside from it, mostly copyrights. Where did it get the images? Do they have the rights to use the images? Do they train their stuff on? Right, there's lots of that. But that's not what I want to talk about today. Because while all of that's getting discussed, it's ignoring what some of the really, really cool stuff that AI is doing that is hugely beneficial. And the reason I want to talk about this is I hear once in a while people come up and say, yeah, there is no ethical use for AI. And I think they are specifically talking about generative AI. Because when you sit and ask them, hey, if there's no ethical use of AI, is it wrong for AI to be developing cancer treatments? Right? I mean, which it is, it's being used for. They're using these models to target a person's specific form of cancer, right? And this is huge, right? Cancer is messed up for lots of reasons, but part of it is that, or part of what makes it hard to treat is that it's hard to be sure that if you remove it through surgery or remove a tumor, that you got all of it. And two, cancers are usually, and I'm not a doctor, so this is sort of, I might get some of the details a little bit wrong, but at a high level, it's a mutation of something that then starts developing the tumors and all of that good stuff, right? Well, through the power of AI, doctors and scientists are able to develop medications based off of the specific genetic code of your specific cancer and target your specific cancer. They're not curing cancer generally, right? If you have, we'll call it, say, lung cancer, okay, for one reason or another, how do we treat it? Well, they're not treating everybody's lung cancer with the same drug, right? It's not like, congratulations, you have ibuprofen and now we can cure the thing. No, that's not what's happening here, right? Everyone's headaches go away. No, that's not what's happening here. Instead, what they're saying is your specific lung cancer, we can go in, we can develop a drug that will go in and stop your specific cancer. But they're able to generate that in days because of AI, right? This is amazing. I mean, seriously, this just blows my mind, right? Right? When you get past all of the almost toy usage of AI, right? All of that generative stuff is, yeah, honestly, there is some interesting stuff with it, but the reality is that's not where the real power behind this stuff is, right? There are a number of things. I went scouring the internet for a number of different examples, and of course, that one is one of my favorite, that cancer ones. But they're also using it for drug discovery, right? The uses in medicine are just phenomenal, right? Because one of the things that you're doing when you're trying to develop new drugs, new medications, is sort of doing a guess and check, right? You kind of know, all right, these chemical combinations work, kind of, or we think they might work, or maybe they're going to work, or could they work, right? Well, AI can do that theoretical pass very, very quickly, right? They can go through and say, all right, here are the chemical chains that we can work. We know that these chains work well against these types of things, right? So we can see that, that this drug helps with, pick something, right? I can't pick anything, right? But you say this works against this disease. Does it work against others, right? Or because this drug A works against this disease, is there something along those lines that might work better, that might work in a different way? Oh, we know the side effects of that drug A has. Can we work on something else, right? And so there's a lot of experimentation and guessing and checking, right? Experimentation. And that takes a while. But AI is able to narrow down the places to search. Yes, you still have to go through all of the clinical trials. Okay, cool, right? We've developed this drug. Okay, AI has, I would say, designed the drug. Okay, and then you can go through and say, all right, let's start doing all of our tests. And the tests are going to take time. Okay, there's no getting around that. But if you've cut down that initial discovery time, the discovery of, hey, what might actually work here and what doesn't, and if you can get to that point faster, then you can get to those clinical trials faster. This is a good thing, right? This is amazing. So yeah, I mean, talk about actual ethical uses of AI. That is definitely one of them, right? These ideas that, hey, we can make better medications and we can do it faster is fabulous, right? Sticking with the medical field, right? AI is really, really good at seeing patterns. Okay, that's just part of what it does. I mean, a language model is in fact a model, and if you're creating a model of something, it's easier to see what it was. I'm not explaining that well, right? If you make a model car, for example, right? I've built this Ferrari, and you look at that Ferrari, and you can match it out to other things in the world. If you see a Ferrari goes by that looks exactly like that, oh yes, I can see that. But you can also see how close it matches to other cars, right? So that's your overly simplified version of how the models do things. Well, and it's probably not even that accurate. Who knows? But still, the models could look at stuff and see patterns, which makes it really nice for medical diagnosis, okay? Because sometimes they can see patterns before humans can, okay? Because we're limited by what our eyes can see, all right? AI can sometimes see those things before we can, okay? And so it's a really good, I don't know, if you want to call it a second set of eyes, right? Radiologist is looking at it, the AI is looking at it. You can potentially do a scan, right? The AI can hit it, said, I think this is okay, which is good. Or say, there might be a problem here. Let's look a little bit closer. And you can dive into it, right? If you can actually find and diagnose a disease faster, this means earlier treatment. And I think most doctors will agree that the earlier you can discover that you've got an illness, whatever it is, the easier it is to treat. Okay? So, hey, if these tools can make diagnosing things faster, this is great. And right, how many times have you heard of somebody that's like, something is wrong with me? Okay, I don't know what it is. I'm not feeling good. And they start going to doctor, to specialist, to doctor, to other specialists, until a dozen doctors down the line, they finally find out what's wrong with them, right? Can you cut that down, right? Can AI shorten that trip? So, hey, you're only having to see one or maybe two doctors as you're to figure out what you need to do to feel better? Right? This is amazing, right? It makes the cost of healthcare significantly cheaper, and I think probably more effective, right? Again, if you could find out what's wrong sooner, it's easier to treat. Okay, these are, and that's all just the medical side of the house, right? There is a lot going on, right? So one of the problems that we deal with is how to be more effective and better stewards when we're dealing with farming and agriculture, right? Because there is a certain reality here that, hey, farming takes water, right? It usually takes some form of fertilizer, right? Maybe it's all natural, maybe it's a chemical fertilizer or pesticides or whatever. And you can debate all day about the benefits or not of some of those things, but you can't deny that, hey, water is sort of important, right? Can we use AI to develop precision monitoring and targeting of what your crops actually need in this area, right? So, and I'm talking about maybe narrowing it down just to that crop circle, maybe just to that section of a crop circle, right? Because it turns out the land is not uniform. Okay, even in one big circle, it's not necessarily going to be the same. But could you take AI-powered sensors to analyze your soil health, your moisture levels, crop stress, right? And can you monitor it down at individual plants level, right? Now, that might be a little tougher for something like wheat, where it's a grass and you've got lots of it. But for something like corn or potatoes, maybe, or something like that, can you use AI to track things well enough so that you can say, all right, we need to adjust our watering here and over here and minimize the amount of water that you need to use, right? That's fabulous, especially if you're farming in an area like where I live in Colorado, where, hey, one, drought is a thing, and two, we're not that wet to begin with, okay? It's not like if you're out in the deep south in the United States where you just get rain. You don't have to worry about irrigation necessarily. But out here in Colorado, yeah, you better be darn tootin' sure we need to be irrigating, because just the water is not right where we need it to be. So can we minimize the amount of water that we need to use, right? If we can minimize the amount of fertilizer we need to use, can we reduce chemical runoff? And even if they're natural nitrites, right? If you're not using a chemical fertilizer, but you're using good old-fashioned natural fertilizers, manures and various things like that, it's more cost-effective if you can leave that in the field and not running off downstream, okay? Can we cut that down? And there's some talk that it's been able to reduce some of that runoff by maybe 90%. And I'm sure it's going to vary depending on where you're at and what you're doing, but this is great, right? The more efficient we can be at farming, the better we're going to be able to feed our population, right? And I mean like the world population, not just, the United States or Colorado or, whatever, right? How about early warning systems, right? Are we dealing with weather, right? So this is one of those things. Nature hates you, just in particular. No, nature is harsh. When you've got things like tornadoes and hurricanes and tsunami and all of this stuff, could we identify areas that are maybe not able to get the warnings as timely, or in as timely a manner? can we see some of these types of things like tornadoes spinning up so that we can get people into shelters fast enough or early enough so that when the tornado does form and hit, they're safe, right? Tornadoes are horrible, right? I mean, they're really, really cool, don't get me wrong, but they are sudden and they are destructive, okay? A hurricane, it forms and you can kind of see it coming, all right? But a tornado, we know that there's some general conditions when tornadoes can form, okay? We're pretty good at seeing, okay, we've got thunderstorms, we've got these fronts coming, and when you get a lot of hot air and a lot of cold air mixing, it starts to swirl and you'll get tornadoes. Or not get tornadoes. That's the thing, right? And is it going to show up here or 10 miles down the road? And where are you when this thing hits, right? If we can detect these things forming earlier, do you have an extra 5 minutes warning? I'll tell you, 5 minutes is a huge amount of time to, hear the warning, get out of bed, get down into your storm cellar or some other safe place in your house, right? If all you have is like 30 seconds, right? 5 minutes is an eternity. This is amazing. This is amazing stuff, okay? One of the other things I really like about AI is what it does to open up so much of our literary history to those who can't see. Actually, the AI benefits for the impaired in any numbers of ways is amazing, right? So, but let's talk about books for a minute. There is a huge amount of literature out there. Some of it good, a lot of it not. Okay, that's just the nature of the beast. But if you're blind, how much of it can you read? This is an issue. If you've got something that's really popular, something like, I don't know, Harry Potter or the Hunger Games or, something like that, sure, there's going to be an audiobook and you're good to go. What about something older, right? This is the thing. It costs money to get a performer to read and narrate your book, okay? Said fiction has a wider audience. Maybe that's easier. What about scientific texts? What about histories? What about all of these books that are not nearly as popular, right? Are they going to be making an audiobook of the book I wrote? Like, no, they're not, because it didn't sell that many to begin with, and it's a technical book, right? It's not a book that most people are going to be sitting to read, but if you don't even have the option to read it because there's no audiobook or there's no Braille version or whatever it is you need, what can you do, right? Now, there are text-to-speech systems. I've certainly listened to articles and stuff that use them, and it sucks because you end up with just this long monotone. You barely can catch where there are breaks in sentences and all of this stuff. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good experience. Now, maybe if you're used to it, I guess. But with some of these models, you can actually do some really cool things and have a narration that sounds natural without having to spend a fortune on the actor. Now, you're about to say, and there are people about to say, but the actors need the jobs. Sure, yes, pay them to go do the things. But there's a reality that you need to be able to make that money back, right? Companies are not going to go into debt to hire actors for books that aren't going to be enough people to read it to make up for it, right? You look at all these books that have gone out of print. Why are they out of print? Because nobody was buying them, right? So it doesn't make sense to print them anymore. It's the same thing with an audiobook. If you want to go back and read some older book that's out of print or just it's just old. Is there an audio version available? Well, if you can get AI to give a natural narration to that book so it's more accessible, this is a win. The other side of it is, let's look at self-driving cars, okay? Self-driving cars, obviously, this is a hard problem, okay? There are some actual legal things that need to get sorted out. You know, if a self-driving car is in an accident that it caused, who is actually responsible for the financial aspects of it, right? If there's an accident, somebody's injured, right? Who's paying for those medical bills? That's part of what that whole insurance system deals with. And that's part of the thing. Like, if I'm driving a car and I run into somebody and it's my fault, yes, obviously I'm responsible for it. Okay, great. If I'm riding in a car that is being driven by a computer and the computer causes an accident, am I responsible for it? I wasn't the one driving. I was just riding in it, right? I'm the passenger in the car, right? This is an actual legal problem that's fascinating to dive into and is worth looking into. Tangential to that, it's really cool. But the real thing here is you are a person now, you are unable to drive for any number of reasons. Maybe you're blind, okay, that happens. Maybe you've got some other impairments, right, that you are just physically unable to control a car, okay? It happens. There are lots of people out there. Does that mean you're now stuck in your home? Right? Does that mean you're totally dependent on something like an Uber or friends or whatever? With self-driving cars, you are not, right? You can have your self-driving car and you can make your way out to it, tell it to where you need to go, and it will take you there, right? So you can get to your doctor's appointments, right? How many times have you ever heard somebody that says, yeah, I had a doctor's appointment, but I couldn't get a ride. I couldn't get a car there, and so I couldn't get to the doctor. That sort of freedom is amazing. And yes, it's a hard problem. There are hard legal problems. Obviously, there are hard technical problems. We're not totally there yet as far as full self-driving cars in any situation, on any road, anywhere. But we're getting there, and that comes around because of AI. This is amazing. This is an amazing technology. Sure, you could also talk about road safety, right? If the majority of the cars are driven by AI and not by random teenagers or somebody who hasn't slept in 36 hours or something like that, yeah, it could be a lot safer on the roads. You can minimize deaths, all this good stuff. Okay. This is fabulous. I've also seen, I also saw something the other day about using AI translation to and from American Sign Language, right? ASL is great, but it's another language, right? And translation to and from this is fun, hard, cool, but all of the above. Yeah, and they've got models that are doing that now, right? So, yeah, there are so many cool things, so many ways that we can see benefits that don't involve, oh yeah, somebody's going to lose their job because AI can do this copy editing faster or something. Yeah, that's a thing, maybe? I question that. Not that it's not happening, not that it can't happen. But more often than not, what I see is companies are taking AI and their employees are more efficient, and so they're able to do more exciting things, right? Either they're able to do more and do things that are more interesting, or just do more. I mean, and it's like, And it's like the benefits you get from being able to go from a typewriter to a word processor, or, as much as people hate email, email was a productivity enhancer. Okay. So is chat. So is a video conferencing system like Zoom or Meet or something like that. Being able to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody who is across campus or across the city or across the world. The technology does some cool things. AI can do the same thing. Now, again, that's not to say it's that everything's going to be all, the same. It's not going to say that people aren't going to lose jobs over it, because they will. It's just a matter of what jobs are going to go and how things are going to shift and what's going to happen. That transformation is potentially scary, potentially exciting. Any transformation like that is all of those things. But the ability that we have within just the world in general to apply these models and make life better for humanity is tremendous. This is a tremendous benefit. Okay. And yeah, there are negatives, right? People who are using these models to create AI porn, basically. And it's not just, I'm going to sit and generate a picture of some random anime girl, right? It's I've got a picture of this person I saw at school or at work, and I'm going to have AI remove the clothes, right? That's sketchy in all sorts of ways. Okay, there's all sorts of sketchiness there, right? Admittedly, this is a problem, right? And I said, we talked about some of the issues with copyright and stuff on the generative AI front all over the place. But there are so many other activities, so many other things where AI is helping make life better, that to throw out the baby with the bathwater here, right? To throw out all AI is bad because somebody can generate nudes based off of a photograph. That is just ridiculous. Okay. Yes, let's acknowledge that there are some problems. We need to deal with them either through legislature or legislation. There we go. I got words. I totally got words. We got this. We have legislation, and we have a legal framework for holding people accountable for doing those sorts of tasks, abuses of the system, perhaps. But let's not just ban the entire everything because of it. Because there's so much good out there that's being done through these models. Let's embrace that. Let's be excited about that. Let's not let Luddites and people who are just afraid of technology to stop it because there's something with AI that they don't like. Okay. Let's look and see if we can make things better, right? Can we use AI, one, to build a better power grid, because let's face it, these things do use a lot of electricity. But can we use it to better balance the grid? Can we use it to help design better fission reactors, or better yet, fusion reactors that we can bring in to bring clean energy to power this stuff without having to resort to fossil fuels, okay? Without driving up electricity costs for everybody. Yeah, we totally could do that. Let's drive forward with an energy policy that brings in more clean energy and allows these companies that are building data centers that are going to help do all of this stuff, power them in a clean way, right? Let's get in on this. Let's drive this, and let's make human society better, because this can. Let's not let's not, and this isn't even talking about all of the geopolitical nonsense, right? Let's embrace what's awesome about this stuff while acknowledging some of the problems. Okay? Again, I'm not here to say let's be blind to it, but let's not be blind to all the benefits as well. So let me know what you think. Keep it civil in the comments, and until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.